This is the 9th module of the course. This module has 2 lessons covering threat intelligence and the threat intelligence lifecycle and sources of intelligence. This lesson will begin by describing what is threat intelligence. It will then describe the various stages of the threat intelligence life cycle, and then we'll proceed to discuss possible threat intelligence sources. As always, each lesson will include knowledge checks and other references. If our ultimate goal is to create cyber threat intelligence that is actionable, we have to obtain details that can be analyzed and from which ultimately threat intelligence can be derived. This begins with data. Data is the raw details that are provided by potentially a number of different sources. It will consist of factual details such as IP addresses, volume of traffic, and ports. It is generally not actionable and will not include any analysis. From the raw data, we develop information. Information is produced from the raw data and is organized and structured. Related data will be grouped and can present an aggregated picture of what is occurring. Whether information is actionable or not will depend on the situation, but in certain cases will present enough details so that actions can be taken without requiring further analysis. At the end of the spectrum is intelligence, which consists of data and information that has been analyzed and disseminated to entities that need the information. It should inform all levels of decision makers, providing them actionable details needed at each level. Intelligence will provide situational awareness of what is occurring to an organization's systems and networks. Threat data, information, and intelligence have several characteristics that will define them. The first of these characteristics is volume, which refers to the amount of information with details available to an organization on the possible threats the organization faces. Information overload is an issue that faces many organizations. It simply means that the organization is swamped by the amount of data it is receiving. This makes it hard to discern the information that is needed. Increasingly, the field is relying on a standardized structure that will facilitate the sharing of information between organizations and systems. It is important that ultimately the structure will also facilitate the reading and understanding by human operators. Certainty is a critical characteristic to be considered. It is not always, and in fact is generally not, possible to determine with 100% assurance exactly what data is showing you. Analysts will have to make a judgment as to whether the data and information is pointing to a security issue or not. This means that any information and intelligence garnered from data is going to be accompanied by a statement as to the level of certainty associated with the analysis. As time progresses, additional data will allow for a better determination, and the certainty of the analysis will increase. Value is the final characteristic. Whether the information and intelligence garnered from data will be important and something the organization needs to react to will be an indication of its value. Higher certainty and assurance of the information will generally impact its value as well. Cyber Threat Intelligence, or CTI, is simply information concerning the threats and threat actors to cyber systems. Like intelligence gathering for other areas, CTI involves the collection, classification, and analysis of information that can be used to defend against attacks on computer systems and networks, as well as other harmful events impacting these systems. The goal is to be able to understand the actors, motives, targets, attack behaviors, and techniques. By doing so, we hope to be able to prevent or mitigate attacks on our systems. CTI is particularly important when addressing advanced persistent threats, or APTs, because of the level of sophistication of these threat actors and their capabilities. According to an article posted by CrowdStrike, 72% of organizations are planning to increase threat intelligence spending. Threat intelligence is important for a variety of reasons, including it can shed light on the unknown, enabling security teams to make better decisions. It empowers cybersecurity stakeholders by revealing adversarial motives and their tactics, techniques, and procedures, commonly referred to as their TTPs. It helps security professionals better understand the threat actors' decision-making process. And it empowers business stakeholders such as executive boards, CISOs, CIOs, and CTOs to invest wisely, mitigate risk, become more efficient, and make faster decisions. Looking at it another way, cyber threat intelligence provides awareness of the current situation that exists on your computer systems and network. It can assist leaders in the decision-making process concerning cybersecurity issues, and it provides the ability for organizations to act when a security situation arises. For these things to happen, cyber threat intelligence needs to be timely. The sooner the information can be provided to decision makers, the faster a situation can be addressed. It needs to be relevant, meaning that information on issues that are not pertinent to your organization only serve to cloud awareness of your current situation. And it needs to be actionable. Knowing that something is occurring is certainly important, but knowing something is occurring and also knowing what needs to be done to address it is tremendously more valuable. Like any other area of intelligence gathering, the process requires more than just data gathering. Data has to be transformed into usable information. Multiple stages happen for this to occur. Like other life cycles, there are different opinions and versions of the threat intelligence life cycle. They all basically cover the same topics, but may call the stages by different names and may combine some steps or expand on others. The steps we will define are as follows. Requirements. Requirements provide direction as to what information is needed or desired. They provide a plan on how to obtain this information, and they define the questions that you are hoping to answer. Collection. As the name implies, this is where the desired data is obtained. Processing. The raw data may come from different sources and be in different formats. In this step, the raw data is organized into a format that will allow for the next step, which is analysis. Once the data has been obtained and processed, it needs to be analyzed to determine answers to the questions that prompted the gathering of this information in the first place. This step will conclude by transforming the analyzed information gathered into a format that will be usable by those needing the information, the intelligence customers. This information should include instructions on mitigation strategies, such as updated configurations for security tools. In the dissemination stage, the threat analyst will deliver the analyzed information to the customer or user that needs the intelligence. The final stage is feedback. The end user of the intelligence information may want to provide feedback on the information they received in order to make it more usable or to redefine the threat intelligence that is required. Threat intelligence can come in a variety of levels. We can look at the intelligence from these three different levels. Tactical. This will be information such as real-time alerts and automated malware analysis. This information relates to ongoing activity and is used by SOC analysts, your network operations center personnel, and IT and security administrators. Operational. Information will come from sources such as patch announcements, your own threat monitoring, incident responses, and profiling of potential threat actors. This information will be used by incident response teams, threat hunters, vulnerability managers, and IT and security administrators. Strategic. Here you are interested in high-level trends. Information at this level may come from requested threat research, tracking of campaigns such as advanced persistent threats, and the handling of deception operations. An interesting angle, sometimes mentioned at the strategic level, is the insider threat, because you will always have users and you need to know the general feeling of employees to spot signs that could lead to disgruntled employees. Information at this level is generally used by the C-suite, executive boards, and IT management. Let's take a look at each of the stages in the life cycle in more detail. Each has its own individual tasks that will be accomplished during the stage. First, let's look at the requirements stage. It has 5 tasks that will be accomplished in this stage. First, identify who will use the information that will be generated. For example, is it intended for the C-suite, security administrators, threat hunters, SOC personnel, or somebody else? Next, set goals. Each potential user of information should define the goals for the information that they want to obtain. Generate requirements. Each user will then generate their specific requirements. There are different types of intelligence requirements. Standing requirements include ongoing information that is needed continually. It is the type of data that is displayed showing your network status. It will also include ongoing analysis of the threat actors that may be interested in your organization. Specific requirements may also be referred to as requests for information, or RFIs. It may include information on an ongoing event or details on a specific vulnerability or threat campaign. The next component is prioritize. Once the requirements are gathered, they should be placed in a prioritized order based on things such as intelligence for systems used for mission essential functions, what are your high value assets, and the severity of risks. Finally, planning. Once the prioritized list of requirements has been determined, the next task is to plan how to obtain the desired information. Will the information come from internal technical sources, specific tools, or a vendor? There are a number of open sources that can also be utilized to access a considerable amount of useful information. The desired data and information will ultimately come from a variety of sources. Collection can be both ongoing for standing requirements and targeted for specific requirements. Gathering this data and information is just one issue. The information also needs to be stored in an organized manner so that it can be retrieved and utilized in subsequent stages. The use of a collection management framework, or CMF, should be considered for this purpose. It can help organize and present information, prevent information overload, identify gaps and duplication of information, and focus efforts on quality of information instead of quantity. At various times, information may be obtained from different sources. When this occurs, it may vary but will include the following considerations. Manual versus automated collection. Most data is collected automatically because of the volume of information available. This reduces the analyst's workload and increases the speed of collection. Manual collection, however, is best for unstructured data from sources such as emails and websites. It also occurs when there is specific intelligence data desired. Internal versus external collection. Internal collection includes those sources that your organization has direct access to, such as log files, alerts from your own security tools, and analysis of traffic. External sources include both open source information that is available and external services. The external services can be either commercial vendors or organizations such as the US CERT, information sharing and analysis organizations, or professional entities such as InfraGard. After data has been collected, from log files for example, it needs to be processed so that it is presented in a format understandable and usable by a human operator. The processing stage involves data aggregation and normalization so that the data can be found in a single location and in a common schema. There are a number of tools that are available for this processing of data. Generally, a SIM tool of some variety will be used, but there are others as well. Remember that SIM stands for Security Information and Event Management. SIM tools collect items such as log files, security alerts, and other relative data from various security devices, such as intrusion detection systems, to facilitate analysis. Bringing this related data together provides a current picture of what is happening on a network and its systems. A SIM tool can thus be used to index data, search and investigate, monitor and alert, and analyze and report. One of the most common tools for this sort of assistance is Splunk. Another tool is a UEBA, which stands for User and Entity Behavior Analytics. This tool is used to detect the behavior of users in your network, as well as systems such as routers, servers, and endpoints. These systems look for abnormal behavior patterns that vary from expected normal behavior. Interestingly, they can be valuable for possible zero-day detection. A third tool that can be useful in this stage of the life cycle is SOAR, which, if you remember, stands for Security, Orchestration, Automation, and Response. These tools automate the tasks needed by SOC analysts to respond to a security incident. In processing information, there are several considerations that need to be kept in mind. First, data validation. If you want to develop actionable intelligence, you need to ensure that the data you have obtained and processed is accurate. Next, data protection. Due to the nature of some of the data that is collected, it can provide sensitive information on individuals and the organization itself. This data needs to be protected so it is not misused. Third, classification and handling. Related to protection, data needs to be classified into relevant categories, which will, in turn, often define the type of handling that will be required for it. Finally, retention. How long is the data needed? Policies and procedures for the deletion of data are required so that it is kept for as long as it is needed and may be required by regulation, but is discarded when it is no longer valuable or necessary to keep it. Analysis is the human process that transforms information that has been processed into an intelligence product that can be used to make an informed decision about some security-related situation. There are three main considerations for an intelligence report or product. It must be reliable. It needs to have come from sources and information you trust. It must also be relevant. It should address some aspect of your infrastructure and is not just general knowledge for the public. Finally, it must be accurate. It should provide a correct picture of what is occurring and the steps that should be taken to address a given pertinent situation. There are four basic steps in the analysis, the first of which is begin an investigation. Some event or a triggering activity should have occurred that has proven in the past to warrant further investigation. Next comes an initial analysis. An initial analysis of the data related to the event or triggering activity is accomplished to ensure that there is actually a need for a response and that this is not just a false positive indicator. Once you determine further analysis is warranted, enrichment commences. The initial analysis has shown that there is indeed an event or a situation occurring needing a response. Thus, further data should be obtained to gather additional information that will be pertinent to the resolution of the situation. The final step is the creation of deliverables. The analyst will develop a threat intelligence product which may consist of a report, briefing, procedures or processes to mitigate the situation, and any additional information that could assist in the resolution of the event and steps to ensure prevention from future occurrences. There are several useful frameworks that can be utilized in the analysis. We will take a look at a few of these. There are three useful frameworks that have been produced that we will pay particular attention to. The Lockheed Martin Cyber Kill Chain is a 7-step or phase process that describes the phases that an adversary typically goes through in an attack. Understanding the various steps or phases may allow you to recognize intrusive activity as it occurs in the different phases. The diamond model was developed by researchers to help visualize the relationship between attackers, victims, and an organization's infrastructure. It uses the 4 vertices of a diamond to represent the 4 core components of adversary, capability, infrastructure, and victim, which can be used to identify what is occurring during an event. The MITRE ATT&CK framework is a knowledge base of adversary tactics and techniques based on observations of real-world attack situations. The attack knowledge base can be divided into several specific threat models and methodologies focused on different targets such as an enterprise, an industrial control system, or a mobile platform. It includes a description of the various techniques that an attacker can use for a variety of different activities such as reconnaissance, gaining access, privilege escalation, lateral movement, exfiltration, and several others. The model is quite extensive with a lot of valuable information an analyst can use. The last one we will mention are hybrid frameworks. Of course, there are always different frameworks that individuals create or combinations of the ones mentioned. Having said that, however, the 3 listed are the common frameworks that have been used. Here is a diagram showing the 7 steps or phases that an attacker typically goes through that may help an analyst in identifying ongoing attack activity. Detection of activity will be easier during some phases rather than in others. For example, since the weaponization phase is where the attacker creates the code to exploit a vulnerability, it will be hard for the target to detect the pending attack during this phase. On the other hand, since the reconnaissance and delivery phases are where the attacker is making direct contact with the target, it may be possible to detect unusual activity or unusual levels of activity, which could indicate a pending attack. Here's an image of the diamond model showing the 4 core components that an analyst can use to break down the parts of an attack in order to better understand an event that is occurring. Additionally, 6 meta features are also shown, which can be considered subcomponents of the diamond model and which can be further used in the analysis of an attack. 2 additional meta features may sometimes also be included. The 2 additional ones not shown here are technology and socio-political. This is a screen capture of the enterprise matrix for the MITRE ATT&CK framework. As can be seen, this framework includes a lot of information an analyst can use. For the enterprise matrix, there are over 200 techniques that the framework describes. There are similar matrices for other potential target environments and operating systems. Here's a screen capture for just a portion of the matrix for Windows systems. Techniques that are applicable to other operating systems will have been removed from the overall enterprise matrix seen in the previous slide. Each technique shown is a link that will allow you to drill down to obtain more information, such as more details for specific examples of the techniques, mitigation strategies for how to negate the impact of each technique, detection strategies, which will aid in the identification of an instance of the technique being used, and additional references in case more information is desired. After the analysis is complete and a report or other intelligence elements have been developed, the next stage is to deliver the now actionable information. This is the dissemination step. Another way to look at this is spreading information and knowledge from the analyst to the customer. Before you disseminate the analysis of a situation, you need to answer a few questions in order to be prepared. These include: what intelligence information is needed by your customer? What is the best way to present the information to your customer? Are updates to your initial analysis expected, and how frequently will they occur? How will the information actually be disseminated? Using what mechanism? And how can the customer follow up with you if additional information is needed? Information can be disseminated in a variety of ways. The two general categories are written and verbal. Written could include reports, email, website postings, and automated notifications using standards such as Cybox, STIX, and TAXII. Verbal methods could be as simple as a phone call, teleconference meeting you pulled people together for, or a face-to-face meeting you arrange. A report template is often utilized so that reports will be in similar formats. This helps the user find what is important to them as they know what to look for. Templates will vary, but will generally include the following. Classification. A method such as the traffic light protocol can be used to mark the document, which will ensure the proper handling of it. The traffic light protocol uses the labels red, amber, green, and clear to show who the report may be disseminated to. Executive summary. Provide upfront a quick synopsis of what the report is about. People are busy, and this simple section will help customers know if they need to be concerned or if this is just some information for them to be aware of. Details. A description of the event or situation is required and should be in sufficient detail for customers to determine if it will impact them. This section can be arranged to provide an overall discussion as well as greater details for those needing them. Analysis. The report should include details on your analysis. This can include information based on your use of one or more of the frameworks discussed. It should also include external analysis of the situation if, for example, the information is discussing a new exploit or threat actor. And recommendations. This section should detail what actions a customer is expected to take. The last stage of the intelligence lifecycle is feedback. Feedback is required so that analysts will know whether the information that was provided met the needs of the customer, the consumer of the intelligence information. Feedback is the primary input for the continuous improvement of the intelligence program and products. There are a number of ways feedback can be obtained. Two are mentioned here. Interviews can be arranged with customers to discuss the disseminated intelligence. These can be something simple such as a telephone call or a scheduled interview with a customer. Surveys can be distributed to customers sometime after a report has been disseminated. Surveys can use a variety of questions to elicit the constructive feedback desired. These include open-ended questions, which will allow customers to use their own words to explain their feelings. This type of question is useful in obtaining feedback on some aspect the analyst did not think about. Rating scale questions require the analyst to construct a question on some aspect for which feedback is desired. This type of question will ask something like, on a scale of 1, low, to 10, high, how satisfied were you with the information provided? Limited option questions, again, are created to obtain specific information the analyst desires. A question of this type will provide a limited selection of possible responses such as, was the executive summary too detailed? With the possible answers of yes or no. Likert scale questions are commonly used and are similar to a rating scale question. In the case of Likert scale questions, the norm is to ask a question in such a way that the customer will state whether they agree or disagree with the statement provided. Generally, a Likert scale question will offer 5 options from strongly disagree to strongly agree. This concludes the discussion of the threat intelligence lifecycle. Time for a knowledge review. Which of the following is a label attached to raw details that are provided by potentially a number of different sources? Intelligence, information, data, or analysis? The answer to this question is data. During which step of the threat intelligence lifecycle will you transform the information gathered into a format that will be usable by those needing the information? Collection, processing, transformation, or analysis? The correct answer is analysis. Which of the following is a model framework used for analysis which includes a database of hundreds of techniques generated from real-world observations of attacks? The Diamond Model, the MITRE ATT&CK Framework, the Lockheed Martin Cyber Kill Chain, or the Observed Attack Technique Framework? The correct answer is the MITRE ATT&CK Framework. Which type of question discussed would a feedback question with the only possible answers of yes and no fall into? Open-ended question, Likert scale question, limited option question, or rating scale question? The correct answer is limited option question. Listed here are references pertaining to information for this lesson. This concludes Lesson 1 of Module 9.